Critical Blast, where pop culture gets blasted.
And good evening, everybody. I am RJ Carter, Senior Managing Editor here at CriticalBlast.com. No Nerdrotic has not taken over the show. My glasses, which you've seen me struggle with for the last few months, finally just went beyond. Oh, look, I have eyeballs now. Went beyond repair. I mean, the rubber had come off the earpieces, so they were just wires that were hanging over there. The plastic had come off the nose guard, so it was like staying on because they were piercing in and staying there. And then this thing started popping out all the time. When I cleaned it, I was like, they want to die, let them die. So I got, and they were bifocals anyway. So I'm like, good. Where's the computer screen? I couldn't see. So I just got some readers for the computer screen. And now I can see you all, just like the lady on Romper Room. Remember, I see Tommy and I see Heroinberg and I see all of you in the chat. Tonight, we are not going to talk about comic books. We probably will a little bit. You never know. We sci-fi guys, comic books are part of our life. But we do have a science fiction author with us tonight, and we're going to be talking about his latest book. That would be Galen's Way. Welcome to the show, Mr. Richard Paolinelli. Richard, how are you tonight?
Very good, RJ. And you put me into like a time zone when you brought up Romper Room, because that's, I watched that when I was much smaller.
You got the cups with the ropes on them, and you'd walk around.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was.
Oh, yeah. 1960s flashback right there.
Exactly. Got to watch cartoons of Casper the Friendly Ghost. Probably the first comic book animated thing I ever saw before I got into the Super Friends and the Filmation shorts.
Well, you mentioned comic books, and technically I'm a comic book guy because the first fiction credit I have dates back to 1986 when I wrote the first two issues of a comic book called Sea Dragon. And it was produced by Elite Comics. They had a six edition run before the company had to close. Unfortunately the oil industry bottomed out, and it just tanked everything in Texas where they were based.
Oh,
but, okay. But now I
doing comics on the side then.
I have always thought about getting back into writing it. I just it's a project for a future day. Maybe I can come up with one.
Richard, there's this crowdfunding community that everybody's jumping in.
I've seen that. If I need to, I'll have to go find some people who are much better. I can't draw a stick figure to save my life, so I would have to go find somebody who knows what they're doing with that. But I never say never with me.
I've thought about the same thing. If I could, find an artist who would want to work with me, I write. You're as old as I am, so you'll know the character Remo Williams, the Destroyer, the Warren Murphy character.
Mm-hmm.
I am lucky enough to be the guy who's on that franchise for the last 3 books. So
nice.
I couldn't do a Destroyer comic book. That would be up to them to decide. But
yeah.
I can write. So I've got some graphic novels in me that I'd love to turn out. But that's a theme for another day. You've got a number of books behind you that all have your name on them. And assuming you didn't Photoshop that, I'm going to guess you wrote them.
Yeah, pretty much. The second shelf that you see there is all my standalone novels. The shelf below that is all the anthologies I've been in. Some of the stuff that's up on the wall is mostly stuff that's been out. The two I think that you can see, I'm not sure what's showing up.
I can see the
yeah, you can see 2 of them there. Those are coming out later this year. So yeah, I've got a whole bunch of stuff.
I'm going to have to hit you up when we do our next anthology, because at Critical Blast, we are so many things, and one of them is a publisher.
There you go.
Our last book was The Devil You Know, which was an anthology of 20 short stories featuring people's encounters with the devil.
Yeah.
How they went down.
Well, I think I'm sitting at 20. I think 21 anthologies I've been in. I've lost track. That's how many there are. I can't keep track of them anymore. So. Why not? I'll throw another one into the mix.
Well, I watched the Murphy Company do all this stuff with the Destroyer. I'm like, yeah, I turn in a manuscript, and then you guys do this through this company, and I can do that. And what I'm finding out is that publishing is a great business where you can just spend a few $1,000s and only lose a few hundred if you're lucky.
Well, see, I've got it down to a fine art. I actually I think between the covers, the editing, and the marketing, I've kept it under 500 a book.
That's not bad.
That's through trial and error, and finding out, okay, that didn't work. That was too cheap. Let's not do that again. You got to do it for a little while. And fortunately, I've been kind of an indie publisher now this is year 5. And I think I'm finally getting it together and figuring out how to do it right. So
it used to be you didn't want to do that. There was always that stigma. Because it was always like for grandma's recipes and such. But the technology and the ability to not only just publish, but also, like you said, to market it and get out there and be on the shelves and compete against the the Simon and Schusters and the Bains and the Tors and all of that. It's not the problem that it used to be.
No, it isn't. And the reason is they would get inundated with script after script after script. They talk about the slush piles, and those things, must be huge. They just get so many in that they can't possibly get to all of them. So they're relying on the query letter. And if your letter isn't stellar and it doesn't quite hook somebody, your book will go into a pile, and maybe 3 years later, somebody will be digging through and they'll kind of look at it. Maybe they'll like it. Maybe they won't. And maybe that's the next greatest book the world has ever seen, but the wrong people aren't seeing it, or the wrong people are seeing it. The right people aren't seeing it. And that's why it's not getting published. With indie publishing now, you put your book together, but you got to get a cover. You got to get it edited. You've got to make sure it's right. You get it formatted. You do all that and you get it out there. Then you're putting it out there for a growing audience of people who have discovered, hey, the indie stuff is pretty good. There's a lot of indie authors out there that are just amazing to read. And there's some of them that are on my other bookshelf that's on the other side here. So it's grown over the last few years. That's one good thing Amazon has done by making printing so easy. You load your book up and the ebook is pretty much done. Getting it the formatting for the prints, you have to kind of learn it, or there's people out there who will. So it's a great time to be an indie publisher right now.
Yeah, we went through Ingram Spark on this last one here, and trust me, I used the template from our previous anthology, Gods and Services, and I was like, yes, this is a 6x9 book. We're going to make it, the 6x9, and I'm typing away and I'm pasting everything in there and I'm formatting everybody's stories, and I send it off to Ingram Spark, and I said, yes, take our 6x9 book, and it gets published on a 5x8. Yeah, and it doesn't get shrunk down either. So everything's like running off the edges of the page and off the top. And they stopped the press on the 5th book coming off the line, thank God. And they said, you did something wrong, fix it. I'm like, oh, yes, thank you, because it's horrible.
Wow. Yeah, I cringe and flinch in pain on in sympathy, because you don't have, people are probably thinking, well, it's only an inch. On either, but no, that inch matters a lot. So oh boy, I've never had that happen. So I'm hoping I can dodge that.
It was, stupidity on my part, because they sent me the PDF to look at, but the PDF, I saw everything. Just, if it was running off the edges of the PDF, I don't know. Yeah. But what I like is that, we've been in the .com. Our core business is all, reviews of movies and books and interviews. And we've only started the live stream interviews for the last 2 years here. But I've crossed paths with enough authors from different publishers that I'm getting an echo now, that when I do these kind of anthologies, I can approach them and say, hey, would you be in our book? As well as, reach out for these new fresh voices that haven't been published anywhere, because then I'm like, I can judge the quality of their writing, and I say these are good writers, and they'll be bolstered by the gravitas of these well-known writers if they're up in the same place. So it's I like the publishing, but I also like the fact that I'm helping indie writers try to get a foothold in the industry.
Yeah, we at Tuscany Bay Books, which is our book company, Jim Christine and I have put together. We just got done doing the Planetary Anthology series, which was an 11-book anthology series I think that it ended up with 193 total stories from 90 different authors. And it's people like who you know, John C. Wright, Kevin J. Anderson is in it. But there's also all these new authors and authors that I hadn't read yet, that I've discovered new favorites that I want to read. I'm doing an anthology based on one of my earlier books, and I've kind of opened it up to all these other authors, and kind of put the limitations on word count and what they can do. And I've invited some of these new authors to submit, because I want to see what they're going to come up with in the universe that I created, just based on what they came up with, based on Dana Bell, for example, wrote one in Mars that is an amazing story, and it's from the point of view of a cat that is on the planet as the humans are evacuating because something's going wrong, and so the cat is there protecting the humans. So it was an amazing story, and I'm like, I want to read more of her stuff. And we were, I think, lucky to have, I think, 3 of her stories in the series. So I want to see what she can come up with in my book, and see what she can do. So that's what I like about anthologies, is they're short, but you're also finding new authors to follow.
Cats have been an interesting kind of staple in science fiction for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
Spacebound. I mean, you had the cat who walked through walls. You had the Game of Rat and Dragon. Who's the guy who did that? I cannot remember his name. Doggone it.
I'm right there with you. I think it dates back to the Egyptians, because the cat was kind of a godlike thing with them. So I think maybe we just kind of carried that down through the years. Maybe there's something mysterious about a cat. So maybe that's it. Maybe that's the attraction.
It must be. We sense that they're smarter than us somehow. They've got us cleaning their poop up. So
there you go. Yeah.
So Richard, tell us a little bit about this Galen's Way. This I'm reading the very bottom of it. It's a StarQuest 4th Age adventure. So that tells me that it's part of something bigger. I don't know if it's part or coming in the middle part or.
Well, it's. I probably should start at the beginning of when this thing was created. It's John C. Wright, who is an award-winning author. Went to go see, I believe it was The Force Awakens, and left the theater displeased with what he had seen. And I'm right there with him. Yeah, shocker. Yeah, no, I'm right there with him, because I'm like, what? That wasn't Star Wars. But anyway, he's driving home with his family, and he's unleashing his critique on the whole thing, and it's not good. So the kids in the back finally said, "Okay, Dad, what would you have done, oh great wise one, to make it better?" He proceeds to lay out a Star Wars that you would kill to watch. Fortunately, his wife Jaji's got a pad and pen, and next to him, and she's taking notes. So he gets home and he develops it out to StarQuest. And the premise is that the human race, in a few thousand years in our future, going along in the Milky Way, minding our own business, when a dark force comes in, and all this thing does is just consume the energy of all the stars, pretty much killing anything in the system. We're pretty much done. But a race comes in, scoops up humanity, transports us to the Andromeda Galaxy. I think it's like hundreds of thousands, maybe even millions of years pass. By the time we get into the first age of the StarQuest saga, the human race doesn't remember its origins. Earth has become kind of a legend, like Eden might be considered today.
Okay.
They don't even call themselves humans anymore. They go by the name hominids. They think they're still the only creatures in the entire universe. They're completely unaware that all around them in the Andromeda Galaxy are all these races. There's even a machine race. John's got this thing where he's got the whole galaxy mapped out, what race is where. The machine race lives in an area of the galaxy that no living thing can go in and survive, which is why it's all just machines. The machines, I think they rarely come out. They just want to be left alone. Nobody is aware that the human race has got this little corner of the Andromeda Galaxy that they're doing their thing in. when he sent me the notes, because we were talking about it on my podcast, and I'm like, I've got an idea that might fit this. So he sends me his notes, and John does not write short or small-minded. The notes came in at 43 pages.
Oh,
of all the races, all the planets, what's going on. He's got 12 ages laid out. What's going on in each age for all the races during this time frame. Some races rise and fall and die off. Others rise and take over. I'm going through this, and I settle on the fourth age because the hominids still think they're the only ones out there. I don't have to worry about alien races. I don't have to worry about screwing up something that John's got planned, because he's going to work in the 12th age. So I can just mess around here in the fourth age. No matter what I do, it's not going to matter, because I think in the sixth age, the human race finally gets discovered, and we go straight to the bottom of the totem pole for a while. Eventually we rise up, but so no matter what I do in the fourth age, it's not going to last anyway. He's good. So my series picks up where the hominids have a loose alliance for a central government. There is a planet called Silesia. The princess has been kidnapped and is being held for ransom on a planet that you cannot get to. You can't just send a fleet. If you send the fleet to this planet, it's completely guarded by meteors and asteroids that are mined. You send every ship you can at it. They're all going to get destroyed, and the prince is going to get killed.
I'm having great thoughts about the Silesius princess.
Yeah, well, hey, we're getting there. She's coming. So they decide they're going to hire Galen Underwood, who is a well-known mercenary and pretty much feared in the realm of the hominids. He's a former member of the military, and there's supposed to be only two ways you leave this military. It's either old age retirement or in a casket. He chooses a third way because he doesn't particularly care for the way they run things. He just steals a ship and leaves. The military sends ships after him to bring him back, and all they get back are bodies and broken ships. And they go, "We're going to leave him alone." We get the hint, we'll leave this guy alone. So they go to they go to Galen, and they pay him an obscene amount of money to go and rescue the princess, because they figure one guy is crazy enough, can get through all this and get to the surface of the planet and save her. They also give him an insane amount of money to kill the guy who's got the princess, because they don't want word getting out that you can snatch their princess, and then they got to deal with us all over the place. So he takes the money only because he wants to kill this guy anyway, because he's killed a friend of his. So off Galen goes. He makes it to the surface of the planet. He discovers there's not one princess that's been kidnapped. There's four. And it's the kidnapper actually is the king and queen of Silesia.
Kidnapped his own daughters.
And he's going to frame the whole thing on the chancellor of the alliance, and get the chancellor ousted, and then he's going to step in and take over as chancellor and then name himself emperor. And so now Galen gets to the surface of the planet, and he discovers he's gotten himself into a big fat political mess and has no clue how he's going to get back out of it. So the rest of the book basically is him trying to figure out how he's going to keep her alive. And of course, now that they know she's not dead and he knows what's going on, they're sending everything after him. The military now knows where he's at, and they're coming after him again. So now he's basically got everybody in his known universe coming after him, and he just got to try to figure out how to get it all sorted out. And he comes up with a way to save the princess and stand up against this empire that's trying to be born. And the rest I'm not going to give because that's spoilers.
Of course. Yeah. I could see Star Wars characters standing in for some of those some of the places there. Now, obviously he didn't plot this story out. This is your story. He plotted the universe out.
John's got the universe out. He's got 3 books, in fact, that are going to be coming out fairly soon. In fact, it's just odd luck that my book got done first and was ready to go, which is why I write the prologue. So if you buy this, read the prologue, because it's going to explain a little bit about how we get to the fourth age in the Andromeda Galaxy. It'll explain what happens in the Milky Way. And it also sets up two other series that I had planned out for other things, but they connect so well to this that it's actually going to be a StarQuest pre-migration series. And it'll kind of deal with the events that lead up to humanity's last days in the Milky Way galaxy. And that's the Ranger series. And then there's another one called The Hunters. That one's going to be set a little closer to our time, probably the end of this century. So I've got like 8 books laid out just on this that I'm going to be writing for the next 2 years.
And this is the first one that you've written for the StarQuest Fourth Age.
This is my first one. It turns out it's going to be the first StarQuest book that comes out. I hope John has his coming out fairly soon, because he wanted to do all 3 and release them together. And knowing him, they're going to sit on your bookshelf about like that, because like I said, he doesn't write short. I'm eager to see what he's going to do in 12th Age. I believe he's got some previews on his website. If you want to go to John's website and get kind of a taste of where he's going, we've got another author who's going to be in the 7th Age, and that's Joshua.
We're going to cover the other ages.
Yeah. So, and John wants it this way. He wants more authors to get into this. So if you're an author and you want to do space opera, and you check into it a little bit, contact John and he'll send you the information. The only thing you're going to be required to do is John gets to look at it before it goes to press and make sure you're not doing something that later on down the line is going to conflict with what is laid out in what he's got. And
I know somebody.
Let him know. We're really hoping more people get into this. I think there's his website. I don't know where it's at, but I think if you Google John C. Wright and StarQuest, you'll find it somewhere. I'm not sure. If I had been a little bit quicker on the ball, I probably had this available. But it's going to be. There you go. I think that's. I think. Yeah, he started it as a Kickstarter. And that's it right there. Yeah.
Yeah, he's got an Indiegogo that's backed. Make $12,000 off of it.
Yeah, and now I'm not sure what all they had on that, because once I got into this, I was just like, I've got to focus on the book, so I don't know what all is on there, but it'll give you a taste of what John has, and I know the books are coming because Jaji is working. Last I talked to her, she was working on the 3rd book, so it's coming. And like I said, it sounds like it's going to be an amazing thing. It will have a lot of Star Wars feel to it because John wants this to be Star Wars, not Star Wars, as he says. So it's going to be, if you were a fan of the original 3 and the way they were put together and that whole feel that they had, you're going to love the StarQuest stuff.
So Herwenberg in the chat, first of all, he brought up the fact that it sounds a lot. The layout sounds a lot like David Brin's Uplift series regarding the distribution of sentient races over millions of years.
I don't know. I haven't read it, so I don't know what David did. So I'm kind of the wrong person to be asking about David Brin's book. So
okay.
Sorry.
And he also has the question: can one acquire physically printed copies of the novel? Because
hang on. Well, hang on. Answer is yes, you can. Right there.
Very cool.
In fact, this is the paperback. The hardcover edition was supposed to show up today. Thanks, FedEx. So yeah, you can get it in paperback. It's $12.99. You can get it in hardcover for $19.99. If you go to the Amazon page, you will not see that because I'm not printing through Amazon on the hardcover, on the hard print. You'll have to go to my website and you will see a button right at the very top where I talk about Galen's Way. You'll see a button, more info. You click that. It will take you to the links where you can order the hardcover or the paperback, whichever one you want. I'm going through a company called Lulu Publishing. They are much easier to work with than Amazon. They do not charge what Ingram Sparks does and have some of the requirements that Ingram Sparks has with returns and whatnot. This is the first book I've gone through Lulu with, but I'm very pleased with the product that I got so far on this paperback. It's better than anything I've gotten from Amazon. I'll just put it to you that way.
Yeah, I've done the Amazon first, and then I went to Ingram Spark after that. I liked Ingram Spark better than Amazon. People have sent me stuff from Lulu that they had done there, but it was like 15 years ago. So I wasn't pleased with that, but it's, it could only have gotten better.
Yeah, they have clearly gotten their act together because, like I said, this is much better than Amazon, and they're much easier to work with than Ingram Sparks was for me. So that's why I picked them.
Now, do you find that you do most of your sales then over Amazon and other online outlets?
Yeah, most of my sales are ebooks, so it's going to be Amazon. This is kind of the experiment for me, is to see if I can build a sales channel outside of Amazon in case something happens, because you never know. I mean, Amazon could blow up or fold up, or you just never know. So you always want to have backup options, and so that's why I went with these guys. I want that backup option. They do have distribution to Amazon through Lulu, but you have to crank your book price up so much. If I had done that option, the paperback would have been 19 and the hardcover would have been 31 instead of 13 and 20. Just to get it to Amazon and Barnes and Noble. And it's like, I'm not going to crank that price up that much. People aren't going to want to pay that much for this book. So I'll just go with this, and I'll just advertise and do what I can with other channels, and we'll see what happens.
Now, what about science fiction conventions? I'm guessing you probably go to a lot of those and set up tables.
I used to.
Yeah. Remember them?
That is what these things hanging up on my wall that you see are the gigantic book covers. Usually I could take 3 or 4 of those, take them off the wall, take them with me, hanging them up behind me wherever I'm at, and that's a great way to display what I'm selling. But in the age of COVID, I'm thinking the last convention I was at was Comic Con in Omaha, and that was two years ago.
Yeah.
I
remember I go to we have a small one here in St. Louis area, the Archon, and we always go to the hometown con if there is one. And we were not knowing if it was going to be on or off, and it was like last July, and it was scheduled for October. And they're like, yeah, we're not going to do it. So hopefully this year it'll open back up, but we'll all be wearing masks and not anybody. And
well, here's the interesting thing. In about a week, a little over a week, I'm going to be at a con called LitCon, and it's all virtual. So I guess what they're doing is they're setting up virtual rooms, and then you log into your virtual room, and you've got your camera like I've got now, and people will pop into the room and say hi, and we'll chat about whatever we want to chat about, and on they go on to the next room. So it's going to be a little different. It'll be kind of nice because I don't have to pack everything up and cart it, but I can't at the same time. I won't be able to sell anything directly, but we'll see.
That's that's part of the charm, is that you're with the person that is writing the books that you love, and you're meeting new people and signing it for you right there. You get your pictures taken. I miss it. I hope it comes back. I don't like this new world of.
No, and it's really not fun. I actually had planned on attending Dragon Con. About September 2019, and no, it had to be last year. I was do last year because it got wiped out because of COVID. So it was last year. I had this big poster for the Planetary series. This thing's a monster. It's like 6 feet tall, 4 feet wide. All the covers are on it. I've got all these cards. I've got all the stuff I'm going to take down to Atlanta and distribute. And COVID hits, and all that stuff is sitting over here in the closet. And now the entire series is out, so I don't know. all the stuff was done to promote the series coming out. Now the series is out, so what are you going to do?
I'm the same way. I got some boxes of what used to be new books. It's going to be like they just came out the week of the convention, and now I'm going to be going in with like an unopened box of year-old books that have been on Amazon for a while.
What can you do? Yeah, I don't think anybody could conceive that we would hit a time when you couldn't be in a building with other people.
The question in the chat is, Richard, can you explain a little what you mean about the term superversive with regards to you and the other writers?
Yeah. Well, I cannot claim ownership of superversive. I'm just one of those who encountered the term and read up on the philosophy and discovered that it appeals to me greatly. And I kind of joined in with everybody else. How to condense this down into where it's not a 3-hour lecture. Basically, superversive is a style of writing that is uplifting. It's positive in its message. You feel good when you get done reading a superversive tale. Now, that doesn't mean that everything is candy and lollipops and unicorns and everybody lives happily ever after. The difference is it is not subversive. It is not this, everything's dystopian, everything is evil, everybody's bad. You get done reading a subversive book and you're in a state of depression for a month.
Yeah.
Superversive, completely opposite. You still have bad things happening, but you have actual real heroes. They're not perfect people, but when the moment comes, they stand up and answer the call and do what needs to be done. Sometimes it comes at a cost, sometimes it doesn't. I mean, it just depends on what the author wants to do. There's romance. A lot of the subversive books are like, you don't have that. That's a bad thing to follow. You don't build those kind of relationships up. Like I said, I could go on for 4 hours with this. There's a lot of people who have written about superversive. They know the subject a lot better than I do. I can only speak to how it speaks to me, which is it is the kind of books I read when I was a kid, when I first got into sci-fi.
Yeah.
And that's the best way I can explain it. It's the style of writing that, like the John Campbells, the Robert Heinleins, the classic, there's Frederick Brown is who I was trying to think of. The classic sci-fi that you couldn't wait to get to the library and pull the next book out when you got done with the last one you had checked out. To me, that means superversive.
That would be exactly the kind of book I would like to read again. I grew up with the Andre Nortons and stuff like that. Cordwainer Smith, that's the name I couldn't think of earlier.
There you go. And it was funny. The first two science fiction books I wrote before I had encountered the term superversive. And both of my books are superversive, but in both of my books, in Escaping Infinity, I blow up the Earth on page 1. And in the first one, the Earth doesn't do much better, but it's still around. So, it's not like everything's all rosy. I just burned the Earth and killed 7 billion people. But the way the story progresses and the way the main characters progress and work through the problem and get to the solution, that's superversive. There's crap has just hit us. What are we going to do? And they go and they do it. Instead of sitting there and, kind of whining about it and like, oh, well, everything sucks and we're just going to sit here and pout about it. They actually find a way, find something deep within, and they overcome it.
Happy endings, or at least satisfying endings, not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've got endings in books where a primary character dies. And it's a romantic interest of the main character, and that character does not make it. Okay, so that's not the happy ending, but there's still a positive ending at the end of it. Even though there's this loss, there's still a positive ending. That's the balance that you look for in telling a superversive story and still having it, people would believe that this is how this would play out. So that's what I try to do. But it was funny, the first two I did, not ever having heard of superversive, but they were superversive books. So it just kind of, that's my natural writing style. That's the books I like to write, the books I like to read. And so when I found it, it spoke to me. If you want to know more about it, after you get done ordering Galen's Way, go up and click on my website. There's a page called Superversive Creators, and it has some links for people who have written about superversive, who are much more knowledgeable about it. There's a list of authors who are considered superversive. I do a weekly thing on Sunday on my website where I bring an author in and we just do it's an all text interview. It's a superversive Sunday spotlight, and the author talks about their books, what draws them to superversive, and you'll get a great idea of what the superversive process and the thought is by just checking that out.
Now, I want to say that that's the same philosophy that we saw in comic books in the 70s and maybe the early 80s. Because, you had, Carmine Infantino's Legion of Superheroes was such an optimistic view of the future, of the empowering spires and just, there were planetary threats, but every once in a while somebody died, but it was always, the good guys always win, bad guys always lose.
Yeah.
And that was the way the universe was balanced. And somewhere along the way, we decided the bad guys don't always lose. So let's show some more of that. Let's show, that sold really well. Let's show some more of that. And that's,
It's a pendulum. I think, we started out over here where good guys always win. We swung all the way over to good guys always lose. At some point we'll get the thing in the middle and we'll get the kind of balance we need. Yeah, the bad guy gets to win every once in a while. But at the end of the day, the good is going to shine through somehow.
And I do hate it when, one of the main good characters has something bad happen to them or dies or nearly dies or has some sort of maiming thing. Because I was I have a good friend who writes the Angst series, and David J. Peterson. And Angst is a medieval tale. It's a midlife crisis in medieval times. He's 40 years old and he gets the call to go heroing. And he's got his friends, they're all going with him, and they're all middle-aged too, and they're bumbling along, but they're doing their best. And I'm not even going to think about what happened to the main guy, but I just stopped at that chapter, and I emailed and said, "You son of a bitch, you better not." And he's like, "I know where you are."
Yeah. When I wrote the first novel after I retired from newspaper writing, and I decided I'm going to give fiction writing one more shot, because I had picked up a copy of a book called Time Travelers Never Die by Jack McDivitt. First time I had ever heard of him. I don't know how I missed him all those years before, but 21 years after his first book, I finally pick up a book of his. And I read this and I'm like, wow, this is great. I go get a Talent for War, which is the first Alex Benedict book. And I read that and I'm like, okay, this guy's amazing. I start checking him out and I find out he was the same age I was when I retired from newspapers. He was that same age when he retired from the Navy and started writing his fiction. And I'm like, well, okay, if he can do it, and I've just spent 20 plus years earning my living, putting words to paper, then maybe I can go back and give this one more shot, because I kind of got derailed in the 80s from writing fiction. So I sat down, and the first book I came up with was a kind of a political mystery thriller called Reservations. And I write in the thing, and I've got a beta reader, an editor friend of mine, who's reading each chapter as I get done. And so I'm typing along, and all of a sudden I get a phone call from him, and he is calling me every name in the book. Every name in the book. And I went, oh, you're on chapter 16, whatever it was. He goes, yeah, how could you do that? You dirty, rotten, no, slams the phone down. I am laughing like a maniac because I had just killed off a character and I had battled for 2 days as I'm writing that chapter. Do I kill the character off? Do I, let the character live? And it took me forever to write the last 3 pages because I was slowly edging to the point where I have to make the call, and I don't want to make the call because I don't know what to do yet. I make the call to go ahead and kill the character. He comes along and he reads that. He is that mad, like I had just killed off a beloved friend, a member of his family, whatever the case may be. And that was the reaction I was looking for from the readers, because it tells me they connected with that character enough that it felt like a real person had died. And that told me, okay, I know what I'm doing when I'm writing this stuff now. If I could make them think that of a person who does not exist, and it sounds sadistic, and I don't mean it to be, but you are trying so hard when you're creating these stories and you're creating the characters to get the reader to connect with the story and with everybody in it, whether it's a good connection or they hate that person's guts. You want that connection, and I got it on that one.
Yes, you did. All right. In dealing with the fourth age of the StarQuest series, are you treating this as every book is in the same setting, or are you even more focused in that, saying every book features recurring characters? Will we see these people again in the next fourth age book, or will it just be, like we're in the same setting, but it's an entirely different family, and some of the stuff will have repercussions somewhere else?
Yeah, well, I would say at least the first 4 books are going to be the characters I've established, and maybe bringing in some more people here and here and there. But the fourth age is going to be mostly Galen and Rhiannon. Some of the surrounding characters are going to play roles. There is a character called Cassandra in Galen's Way, who I am very happy that I decided to put her in. She is the AI for Galen's ship, the Tempest. And she is this smart mouth, piece of programming that actually, she's his sidekick. And I wanted to have a sidekick for him, but it couldn't just be another human being. And it couldn't, I didn't want to do the droids thing like Star Wars.
Right.
So I came up with the AI for the ship, and she's always busting his chops, keeping him grounded. Maybe anytime he's starting to get a little bit big in the britches, she kind of, knocks him back down a little bit. And she's the only creature in the entire universe get away with it, not get shot, because he's just not the type that's going to put up with it. But from her, he'll take it. She is going to have a very interesting story arc as we go on too. So yeah, for the first 4 books that I write in fourth age, there's going to be a lot of recurring. Eventually, Galen and Rhiannon are going to age and pass on, and it's going to go to their kids, and we're going to go on. I'm going to go. You'll know when I'm done with fourth age when I get to the point where the human race is finally discovered by the other races, because I can't go any further after that in fourth age.
Okay.
So if you ever read that confrontation and how it turns out, you'll know I'm done with fourth age. But I can see going about 8 total books in fourth age before I'm done with it. And it won't just, start off with the characters we've established here. I'd say probably about midway through, we'll be on to the next generation and going on. And Cassandra is going to be the link to all 8 of them. She'll be there throughout the whole thing.
Okay. Now, you mentioned way back at the beginning of the interview that the way that humanity gets to the Andromeda Galaxy is, of course, that, our galaxy is kaput, at least the solar system is kaput, and these aliens basically scoop them up and drop them off. Did they interact with these aliens at all, or was it just like everything went black, lights are back on, we're somewhere else?
That is something John and I are going to have to get sorted out, because unfortunately we have time. Because I think I'm the only one crazy enough who is going to try to do fourth age and also pre-migration at the same time. The first book for pre-migration is going to be Ranger, and it'll be out either end of this year, first of next year. And it is set well before, well, I'd say maybe about a 50, 60 years before this dark force comes in. And I introduced the character who is Ranger in the prologue of Galen's Way. His name is Galen Underwood. And yes, there is a connection between Galen Underwood and Galen Dwyn. And that'll be explained as well. But Galen Underwood is a Ranger in the Milky Way. They're kind of the only law and order out on the frontier. His story, you're going to get the first introduction to this dark force because it has sent out a little bit of a probe out first to see what's here. He will encounter that, and then the series will kind of gradually build up to the last stand that Galen leads. In Galen's Way, in the prologue, we talk about how Galen and his Rangers hold the line against this darkness long enough for the aliens to swing in and get everybody out. And it's right at the very end, after the last evacuation, Earth mysteriously disappears. And I did that for Joshua Young, who's going to be playing in 7th Age, so that he can have this Legend of the Lost Earth that's got some kind of device on it that this dark force wants. And so the aliens take the Earth and the sun and the moon and just shoot them out way out into deep space where this thing will never find it. So Galen Underwood and his Rangers, they hold the line long enough for all this to happen, and then Galen is the last one to fall. So now you know how that Ranger series is going to end, but there's a lot to go on before we get there. So that will be there, and then there's the Hunter series that takes place set later in our current century, and it just kind of sets the stage for the Rangers to come in when they come in. So it's all going to be connected. When you get done with every book I read, you could start at 1 and you've got this nice flow through time all the way to the 4th Age.
This is such a book spanning epic of such proportion. Homer himself would look at this and say, I'm out.
Well, yeah. But that's what's so nice about the way John opened this up, to where more than one author is going to be in this, because there is so much to it. If I had the binder, the binder's like, fat, just on the notes, you could go in and pick an age. And as long as you stay within the boundaries that John has laid down, and trust me, he's laid them down, you can go in and just have a field day, do as many books as you want. And if we have more authors getting into it, and if somebody wants to plow into the 4th Age, they're more than welcome. Pop in, read what I've come up with. The one thing that we're all trying to do is work with each other so we don't step on each other and do something that's not matching up with something that came before. Come in and have some fun, see what you can do. So see if something I've done, you want to go and explore a little bit further and knock yourself out. Give John a call and let him see what you got, and we'll go from there.
Very cool. I was just thinking, that if the humans have forgotten how they got there, and Earth is this legend like Eden was, then they must have forgotten the aliens as well. But the question remained was, had the aliens forgotten them? because there's like, they might be alone out there, but somebody knows they're there because they put them there.
I can't. Okay, you know what? I'm going to shut up because that could be a spoiler. So I'm going to hush.
Okay.
Something's coming. I will just leave it at that. But it's going to be John. That's John's thing in the 12th Age. And all I am doing is making sure everything I do and say is going to match up with what he's got coming. But I know a little bit about what he's got in mind, and I can't wait to read it. I want to see what he does when he gets there.
I know exactly who I'm tagging in Twitter as soon as this is done here. He's got a lot of books published that are space opera. We go to the same conventions. He goes to Dragon Con a lot too. Van Allen Plexico, when you get the DM, you're going to want to watch this.
Hey,
involved.
The more the merrier. Just understand that this is, it's not Star Wars, but it is. It's not even. I don't even think you can say it's an homage to Star Wars. This is the Star Wars that we wanted to see when they went back finally after 1987 when the last of the original 3 came out. when they finally started coming back to Star Wars films, this is what we wanted to see. This is kind of what we saw with the Star Wars books after they started doing. I think Alan Dean Foster started them in the 80s, and we have all these books that have come out. We wanted to see more of that, and we didn't. I don't think we really got it. Definitely not with the sequels. A little bit with the prequels, but they could have been better done. Well, so this is kind of the Star Wars we wanted.
You know what happened after the first? It should have gone after the first 3 Star Wars movies. We all know that in science fiction. The clone troopers, they progressed to the point where the Emperor said this isn't good enough. We've got to do something else to prolong their lives, and basically turned them into androids that he became the leader of, and these androids became Cylons. And
there you go.
A long time ago, and a guy far away, and then they migrated to Earth. And
well, see, now that's the thing. Star Wars is a long time ago in a galaxy far away. Star Quest is this is what's coming in another galaxy a couple of million years down the line. So it's kind of John went the other direction, but I love it. I think especially because it lets me kind of have some fun with the pre-migration and kind of set a little bit more of the history for that. And I'm hoping I can set it up so that other authors will come in, and they've got that to build on. They've got what I've done to build on. They've got what John does to build on, and what Josh does. I really hope in 10 years that we just see Star Quest everywhere.
And start seeing it on some big screens, maybe.
There you go.
I would dig that, or Netflix. Netflix is probably a better option these days for the long form storytelling. Yeah.
You could not try to squish. I don't even know if you could do Galen's Way in a 2-hour movie.
Yeah.
There's so much going on. So it would have to be a long running series, and this thing could go forever if enough of us get in on this and write about it.
Well, Richard, I appreciate you being on the show tonight with us. Folks in the chat, definitely click the link to Amazon. We put links in the chat here for Richard's website and also to John's website. So get out there to Amazon, start getting in on this Star Quest novel, Star Quest adventure across the ages here. It sounds like getting in on the ground floor of something pretty big. Look at that.
Yep.
And we thank you for coming in, because without you, we don't have a show.
Yep.
And as always, we just hope you had a blast.